Alright guys, I am back with my review of this week's TNA Impact Wrestling for October 10th, 2013. Oh Lord, that Dixie promo, that was sad. That was just hard to watch. So Dixie Carter comes out and she says, she's talking about Hulk Hogan but says we're never going to mention his name again. She doesn't need him. She doesn't need Hogan, but she doesn't say his name. She doesn't need that has-been Eric Bischoff. She doesn't need Vince. She doesn't need Stephanie Levesque. And she doesn't need the Jarretts. Because she's the best thing to ever happen to wrestling. Okay, first of all, the acting was terrible. But I think we all come to expect that from Dixie Carter. Second of all, calling out Stephanie McMahon is so desperate, so just trying to be relevant. Like, please look at me, please watch our product. And it just comes across as begging. So that was very depressing to watch. And then she said, God, what did she say? She said AJ Styles, she starts cutting a promo on AJ and says that Bully Ray, she's giving him carte blanche. He can put AJ in any match he wants tonight. So now, all of a sudden, she's just friends with Bully Ray? And the whole thing is just really silly. Bound for Glory is coming up. And TNA stopped doing 12 pay-per-views a year. Now they do 4. So they have all this time to build up Bound for Glory. And it feels like this whole Dixie Carter thing was just rushed. Like, she instantly came out, turned heel, and now she's just friends with all the heels. It's so damn phony. I hate it. So anyways, she starts insulting the fans, and Sting comes out. And she says that tonight she's going to put Sting in a match because he had no right to make that match last week with Sting versus Magnus for Bound for Glory. So she's going to put him in a match against Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. A handicap match. This is exactly what's happening in WWE. Like, fucking exactly. This is so pathetic, man. So then she says that Magnus is going to have a match. And if Sting or Magnus lose, then they're not going to be at Bound for Glory. And if Sting loses and he's not at Bound for Glory, then she holds his career in her hand. I mean, you could tell they want, like, TNA wanted to have Dixie say if they lose, they're fired, but I guess they felt that would be too much like the Cody Rhodes angle, so they couldn't say fired, they could just say they won't be Bound for Glory. And the whole thing was just really desperate, and if you know anything about TNA, you know Dixie Carter is the reason Sting keeps coming back. She basically begs him to come back and sign contracts. So for her to come out there and say, if you lose, you won't be under contract, you're going to be like AJ Styles. And it's just, this was terrible. This was a horrible, horrible promo. And it didn't even last that long. Austin Aries cuts a promo on Jeff Hardy backstage. And it was a good promo, but it just feels so last minute. Like, we got Bound for Glory coming up, so we got to come up with some reason why Austin Aries wants to face Jeff Hardy. So what they came up with was, Austin Aries says, Jeff Hardy wanted the Ultimate X match because he needs the gimmicks. He likes ladders and all that crap. I'm a pro wrestler and a great one. I don't need any of that stuff. So, I mean, the promo was good. It's just, everything feels so rushed when you have so much time to build up this pay-per-view. Why has everything got to feel so rushed? I did like how Austin Aries mentioned the inner monologue crap. If you remember back when Jeff Hardy would cut promos and we could hear his thoughts, that shit was terrible. And then AJ Styles is backstage and he says he's going to win the world title and make Dixie pay. So we get Jeff Hardy versus Austin Aries. And this was a good match here. Hardy goes up top for the Swanton and Aries crotches him and then hits a brainbuster off the top. Killed Jeff Hardy with this move. Looks sick as hell. I thought Hardy had injured his shoulder at the very least. So Aries gets the win here clean. Then Samoa Joe comes out. And he adds himself to the Ultimate X match at Bound for Glory. Why? Why would he do this? Why does he want to be in this match? Does Main Event Mafia just have nothing going on? They're not feuding with anybody? They can do Sting versus Magnus and Samoa Joe can just go in the Ultimate X match? What is their purpose anymore? So Joe adds himself to the match. So if this match didn't already feel like, hey, let's just cram a bunch of guys into one match so that everybody can be on Bound for Glory, now they've crammed Joe into it. So it's really just a match with a bunch of guys they're not really doing anything with. So we see the Bromans backstage. Robbie E has shaved the word bro into the back of his head. And they're talking about how Jessie lost to O.D.B. and Jessie says, I'm going to go out there and... I can't remember what he said. Then we see Jeremy Borash talking to Joseph Park and Eric Young, who are about to go on a road trip to San Diego for Bound for Glory. And at this moment I realized Joseph Park acts like John Candy in the first National Lampoon Vacation movie. Watch John Candy's character in that movie and tell me that is not fucking Joseph Park. So this was goofy, like buddy cop type stuff. And then they remember O.D.B. has a match, so they can't leave yet. So then we get O.D.B. versus Jessie with Eric Young at ringside. And Eric Young fights Robbie E to the back. And O.D.B.'s beating up Jessie. And then LeiD Tapa comes out. And I actually thought this was pretty cool. Jessie just leaves. He just goes away. And LeiD Tapa lays out O.D.B. She actually got her in the Tongan Death Grip at one point, Ming's old finisher in WCW. But yeah, LeiD Tapa lays out O.D.B. and then holds up the Knockouts title. So Bully Ray is talking to Nux and Bischoff, and Nux says, man, you're killing us. We're down to 3 members. You're killing our club. So once again, they don't include Taz. And Bully Ray says, look, I'm not killing it. That was Ken Anderson. And tonight, Dixie Carter is letting me put AJ in a match. It's Bully's revenge. And I want that match to be you two against AJ Styles. Nux and Garrett Bischoff against AJ. So that's happening. Then we see Magnus and Sting talking about the big Bound for Glory match. And Magnus says, we got to get through tonight first. But the way they were talking about the match, I mean, you know they're going to win their matches on this show just so that they can have the match at Bound for Glory. And then we see Bad Influence getting ready for the Ego Hall of Fame. It's the Ego Hall of Fame. And Christopher Daniels and Kazarian come out wearing the tuxedos from Dumb and Dumber, the orange and blue, and they actually reenact the scene from that movie where they show up at the banquet. And I thought it was pretty funny. They get in the ring. Kazarian cuts a promo about why Bobby Roode deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. The Ego Hall of Fame is a real Hall of Fame. TNA's is just a joke. And I actually thought Kazarian did a really good job here. So Bobby Roode comes out. He sits in this gigantic chair that's so big his feet can't touch the ground. And then he thanks Bad Influence. He thanks himself. And he says, what has Kurt Angle done for TNA lately? And then Kurt Angle comes out. This was a surprise. And Kurt Angle takes his shirt off. And he's in great shape, but he still has the crazy eyes. And he comes to the ring and he says, Bobby Roode, I've been gone for a while. Who are these guys? Your girlfriends? And this causes Christopher Daniels to attack Kurt Angle, but Kurt Angle suplexes him. Then he suplexes Kazarian, drops him right on his damn head. And he gets Bobby Roode in the ankle lock, but Roode escapes. And then Kurt Angle says, at Bound for Glory, it's going to be Bobby Roode versus Kurt Angle. So another match is added here. And I believe the pay-per-view is next Sunday. So it's Brooke Tessmacher versus Velvet Sky. And Velvet comes out with Sabin. And Sabin uses his jacket to cover up her ass. And he does some stuff like that, kind of like Mark Marrow and Sable back in the day. And at one point, he tries to give Velvet some directions on how to beat Brooke Tessmacher, and while she's distracted by this, Brooke rolls her up and gets the win. So, yeah, that was... Oh, and when she rolled her up, she actually rolled her up so far that Brooke's, or Velvet's shoulder was clearly up before the 3 count, but Then we get Sting and Magnus versus Bad Influence. I thought it was a handicap match, but it's Sting and Magnus versus Bad Influence, and this was shit. And let me explain why. Like I said last week, I like Sting. I was a fan of Sting's. But this is unacceptable. Sting versus Magnus at Bound for Glory is a joke. Sting is going to come out for TNA's biggest show of the year, and he's going to wrestle in a fucking t-shirt. That's what's going to happen. Just like he did here, just like he always does. And it's time to hang it up. It's getting sad, and it's making a joke out of his entire legacy, just like all the others did. Coming back and wrestling in TNA. I don't know why TNA brings in these guys who just don't have it anymore. But Ric Flair did it, and it just makes him look like a joke. Mick Foley even, Kevin Nash, all these guys, they come here and it looks sad and pathetic. And when you can't even wrestle without wearing a t-shirt and looking like crap, it's time to call it a day. And in this match, oh my god, this match. So Magnus gets the crap kicked out of him so that Sting can get the hot tag. And then Magnus gets tagged back in. He gets attacked from behind. Sting tags himself in, hits the Scorpion Death Drop on Kazarian, and gets the win. So then Magnus is pissed off that Sting tagged himself in. You can't even respect it. If this was a bunch of young guys out there trying to make a name for themselves, the future of the business, you could respect that. This is just a joke. And Magnus, the young guy, is getting beat up so that Sting, old-ass Sting, can get the hot tag. And I have no idea why they book Sting like this. Like Sting is some fucking powerhouse. It is ridiculous at this point. No one is buying this crap. And it pisses people off. Look at Matt Morgan. He lost to Sting. This guy who's been booked as a monster. He was a giant. They had all this... I mean, I'm not the biggest Matt Morgan fan, but they clearly had some plans for him at one point, and then they have him lose to Sting. This huge giant loses to Sting, who's over 50 years old. Of course Matt Morgan's going to want to leave the fucking company after that shit happens. Like, why would you continue to work in a place where the old guys are continuously booked stronger than the young talent? It's stupid, and it's not believable. And, I mean, my parents even. When I tell them shit like I was watching TNA, and I remember when I was talking about Ric Flair, and they said, is he still wrestling? And I said, yeah! He wrestled Jay Lethal. I mean, they don't know who the fuck Jay Lethal is, but they couldn't believe he was still wrestling. It's sad, man. It's sad to see stuff like that. And you can't blame the wrestlers because TNA is giving them all this money. It's TNA's fault for trying to bring in these guys that nobody cares to see anymore. And it's obvious they don't pop any ratings because of it. They don't sell out any shows on the road. So why do you continue to do this? It's fucking stupid. Please stop. And you know his ass is going to wrestle at Bound for Glory in a fucking t-shirt, and that drives me nuts. Before I forget, they actually showed another Ethan video this week, showed his face, and it's Ethan Carter III. It's actually Derek Bateman from NXT, if you wanted to know who Ethan Carter III is. Then we see Dixie Carter offer AJ a check to not show up at Bound for Glory, to just leave. And she mocks him and says you can buy a bunch of trailers with it. You can open the AJ Styles Center for kids who can't read good. She said something like redneck kids that can't read, but I instantly thought of Zoolander. And I actually thought this was really funny. Then we get AJ Styles versus Nux and Garrett Bischoff. Bully Ray's doing commentary with Taz. This was trash. So it was a shitty handicap match. AJ wins with a small package on Garrett. Garrett botched this. I mean, I don't know what the hell this was. It looked so bad. But it was clearly supposed to be a small package, but you're in there with Garrett Bischoff. You can only do so much, even if you are AJ Styles. So AJ wins. Bully Ray gets in the ring. He beats AJ with a chain, drops him on the ramp, and that's how the show ended. This was a pretty weak show, I have to say. Not a lot of good stuff this week. I did like Aries versus Jeff Hardy, but that was about it. And the build for Bound for Glory is terrible. It blows my mind how they had so much time to build to this show, and this is what they've come up with. And they're still trying to sell tickets. The show is next Sunday, and they're still trying to sell tickets and the VIP weekends and all that crap. They still haven't even sold out for their biggest show of the year. And you want to know why? Because who wants to see this shit? Who wants to see Bound for Glory when you're still adding matches to the show? And they're not even good matches. Okay, the Ultimate X match has potential to be good, but it's not like anyone's really invested in it. There's no story there. It's just a match for the sake of having a match. And it feels like the entire card is that way. The only match that actually has build is Bully Ray versus AJ Styles. And it's because AJ won the Bound for Glory series, which they did for a while, and now it's his chance to face Bully Ray and possibly win the title. But now it's more about the whole Dixie Carter thing. And what AJ's going to do once he wins, and Dixie's going to try to stop AJ. She's probably going to put him in another handicap match next week. And like I said earlier, it's the same exact thing they're doing in WWE. And it just makes TNA come off looking really shitty. But yeah, I thought this was a weak show. And at this point, there's nothing they can do to save the pay-per-view. They only have 1 week. And I know that episode's going to be taped. So there's nothing they can do at this point. It is what it is. I'm not excited for the show, and hopefully, because my expectations are so low, the show actually comes off good. But I don't expect anything great out of Bound for Glory this year, and that's really sad. But anyways, that's my review. Hope you guys liked the video. Leave your thoughts on the show in the comments, and thanks for watching. Bye. What did she say? She said AJ Styles, she starts cutting a promo on AJ and says that Bully Ray, she's giving him carte blanche. He can put AJ in any match he wants tonight. So now, all of a sudden, she's just friends with Bully Ray? And the whole thing is just really silly. Dixie Carter comes out, and she says, she's talking about Hulk Hogan, but says we're never going to mention his name again. She doesn't need him. She doesn't need Hogan, but she doesn't say his name. She doesn't need that has-been Eric Bischoff. She doesn't need Vince. She doesn't need Stephanie Levesque. And she's so desperate, so just trying to be relevant. Like, please, please look at me. Please watch our product. And it just comes across as begging. So that was very depressing to watch. And then she said, God. Alright guys, I am back with my review of this week's TNA Impact Wrestling for October 10th, 2013. Oh Lord, that Dixie promo, that was sad. That was just hard to watch. So doesn't need the Jarretts, because she's the best thing to ever happen to wrestling. Okay, first of all, the acting was terrible. But I think we all come to expect that from Dixie Carter. Second of all, calling out Stephanie McMahon is